car dead? As far as I'm concerned, it's not dead.
The oil-producing countries of the Arab world decided to use their oil as a political weapon.
As has become common in many states in the East, cars have been lining up before dawn. By the time the pumps opened, many had been waiting 2 and 3 hours for gas.
In the middle of the world's largest automotive crisis, one bold and innovative figure would design a car that would change the world.
Henry Ford said, you catch things on the rising tide, you're doomed to success.
It had 3 wheels and a claimed gas mileage 5 times higher than anything else on the road. But this story has a twist unlike anything you have ever seen before. Despite its amazing on-paper credentials and flurry of pre-orders from across the United States, this car would lead to an FBI manhunt and end with its creator behind bars. This is the Dale Econo car, and the story of how its creator became the FBI's most wanted fugitive. Geraldine Elizabeth Carmichael was born in Indiana in 1927. She was a farm girl who, unlike her friends, preferred mucking around with tractors over dressing her Barbies. It was clear that Liz, as she would become known, was not your average girl. With bigger dreams than working on her family farm, Liz studied hard and left school with a degree in mechanical engineering from Ohio State. Married to a NASA engineer with 5 children, Liz was living a dream. Everything she could have wished for as a young girl had come true. But life rarely goes exactly to plan, and life had a big change lined up for Liz. Her husband would suddenly pass from a heart attack. Liz now carried the family on her shoulders. Liz would turn to her degree and charisma to put food on the table. She got a job at the United States Marketing Institute, a place where would-be inventors and entrepreneurs could receive guidance on how to market and sell their inventions. And it would lead to the biggest break in her career and a chance to secure her family's welfare for generations to come. One day, a would-be inventor entered the building, holding plans to a revolutionary new vehicle that could solve America's gas problem. The inventor was Korean War vet and motorbike lover Dale Clift.
Yeah, that's the reason I gotta have one of your future Dale automobiles, that 100 miles per gallon.
I don't think we can quite do that on the Dale. Maybe 75, maybe.
He molded a plastic cover for his bike to shield him from the weather and added a 3rd wheel to make it more stable on the wet and icy roads. Dale had made a tricycle that had all the benefits of a car, but with the fuel economy of a bike. When the average American sedan was managing 12 miles per gallon, Dale's invention did 70. Sat in the room with Liz, he told his story, and her eyes began to light up. After 5 hours, they struck a deal. Dale would get a royalty in the millions once the 3-wheeler hit the market, and Liz was free to develop the idea into something nobody could resist. Liz would found the 20th Century Motor Car Corporation that same year. Headquartered on Ventura Boulevard, Encino, California, Liz began to build a dream team to bring her dream car to life. She brought in Frank McGinnis, a NASA engineer on the Saturn V rocket project. This was some serious pull, especially in the light of America winning the space race. She also brought on a huge team of salesmen and marketeers to push this revolutionary concept and sell pre-orders. And just like that, the infamous 3-wheeled Dale began to pop up on every newspaper and TV screen across the country. The team of sales sharks Liz had brought on board was pushing the message far and wide, and after a whistle-stop marketing tour that saw it feature at the LA Auto Show and as a prize on The Price is Right, Liz had people flying in from across the country, some even drawing out all their savings to put a down payment on this game-changing car. And it just happened to come across the television of an investigative journalist who knew a thing or two about cars, and the claims about the Dale didn't add up. Dick Carlson and Peter Noyes of KABC TV Los Angeles wanted a chance to interview this powerful woman with hopes of becoming the next Henry Ford. Their story would begin even before the camera started rolling. Sat in the waiting room of the 20th Century Motor Car Corporation was an intelligence officer from the district attorney's office. He was waiting for a few employees to finish their shift so he could press them for information on the car, the company, and ultimately, Liz. The interview would go without a hitch. Liz would talk about her upbringing, her degree from Ohio State, how she lived with her sister-in-law, and her 5 kids. Liz seemed like the real deal. And to top it off, Liz would send them out to see the car being built. Still skeptical of Liz and the Dale as a whole, they would hire a former automotive engineer to pose as a crew member to help them get the real details on what was going on behind the curtain. What he saw would change everything.
A source close to the company said the engine was in fact made by FMC and the transmission was from a Toyota.
Liz denied all of this, claiming it was the Big Three trying to steal her inventions. But the interview had more damaging revelations. The deposits laid down by thousands of hopeful owners from around the country did not have a refund clause, nor was the money held in escrow. All of this was very much illegal. Liz would receive a cease and desist letter from the state of California shortly after the interview aired. To Liz, this was yet another attempt by the government and the big players in the auto industry to shut her down, stop her genius vision from changing the automotive landscape. But this story pulled at a thread that would begin to unravel not only the story of the Dale, but the story of Liz herself. You see, as it turned out, Ohio State had never heard of an Elizabeth Carmichael, nor did the University of Miami where her business degree was obtained. The vice was tightening, and with no money from down payments coming in, things began to look shaky for Liz. She needed a home run, an injection of cash to finally get this car made and fulfill those orders. As luck would have it, those investors were on the horizon, in the land of the rising sun. $30 million was the prize. The only hitch, they had a few weeks to finish the car and get it ready to test drive. Without this investment, the Dale, and by extension Liz, were dead. Against the odds, the Dale drove to the test site. Just as the investors arrived to see the car in action, not even Liz, nor the engineers who built it, had ever tested the car in private. Everything started without a hitch. The car set off, gained speed, it sounded good, and it looked great. But as they looked to turn the car around and come back, disaster struck. With a heavy passenger on one side and a small light driver on the other, the 3-wheeled Dale rolled in the turn, scraping its side along the road before crashing back down onto all 3 wheels. Exactly what they didn't need to happen in front of their investors, and exactly what they didn't need to happen on a public test. The house of cards was crumbling, and it was an inside job. Unbeknown to Liz, one of the people she hired to work on the car was approached by Dick Carlson of KABC TV. Dick had a feeling there was more to Liz than she let on. He convinced this employee to snag an item of hers so they could get the LAPD to run it for prints. The image Liz had spent years constructing began to fall apart. The press, once the source of great praise, began to turn on her and the Dale. Investors, early buyers, everyone who'd put money down on the car came knocking at the Encino office. They demanded their money back, but without the Japanese investors, their money no longer existed. Liz had one last card to play, head out of regulation-loving California and down to Texas to try and secure more investment. But even this would backfire. The state of Texas would file a lawsuit against the company, fearing Liz had come to pull the same scam they had heard about in California. There was just one big issue. Before 1973, not even the federal government could find any proof that Liz Carmichael existed. A warrant was issued to bring her in and get to the bottom of not only who she was, but what she was really up to with the Dale. When the police arrived at her house, she had gone, and in a hurry, leaving behind everything, including some unusual items of clothing and some very questionable literature that raised more questions than they answered. The answer, however, lay in the hands of the LAPD. The item acquired earlier by Dick Carlson would finally reveal the truth.
Mrs. Carmichael's fingerprints match those of a notorious con man. Geraldine Elizabeth Carmichael, in reality, is a 47-year-old guy by the name of Jerry Dean Michael. 1961, he jumped bail in Los Angeles. He'd been arrested on a counterfeiting charge at the time. He's been arrested about 7 times, in fact, and for the last 14 years, he has been a federal fugitive, moving from house to house.
Carlson would drop this bombshell live on air, and with it, the story of the Dale automobile and that of Liz Carmichael came crashing down. You see, there was never a NASA husband living the suburban dream, nor were there any degrees from any college or university in the land. And as the test drive had shown, the Dale was nothing more than a pipe dream itself. She would stand trial for 9 months, representing herself and working the media to her advantage.
I still intend to produce a car. Possibly by the time I get out of jail, there'll be some improvements made, and it won't be exactly that same
But
one.
despite all that, the jury would disagree with her version of the events. They would return a guilty verdict against Liz and the other main figures at the 20th Century Motor Car Corporation. Facing at least 10 years for their crimes, it seemed as if our story would end here. But Liz had other ideas. She would skip town and start another manhunt that would last for another decade. Liz would finally be caught in a town in Texas that shared the name of her ill-fated car. Liz would serve 18 months in prison and would pass away from cancer in 2004. You can still see the Dale today at the Peterson Automotive Museum. It was the dream of a character who divided opinions, con man masquerading as a trans businesswoman who had hopes of changing the automotive industry and possibly also her own past.
You're going to be able to take on GM.
We're gonna whip GM.
YouTube thinks you should watch this video next, so why not give it a click and find out why.